Are you grieving? Or do you know someone who's grieving? Well, welcome to the Grieving Journey podcast. Listen in while we use this safe space to share stories in hopes of touching the hearts, souls, and minds of those who are on the grieving journey.
Welcome back to the Grieving Journey podcast. I'm your host, Angel Morrell, and today's guest is someone very special to me, Erika Duncan. Our connection actually started as a mentorship, but over time it's grown into something so much deeper, a true sistership. Erika has become a friend, a confidant, and someone I truly admire for her strength, wisdom, and her heart. Her story is so powerful, one that reminds us that grief doesn't always show up when or how we expect it to. Erika has experienced deep loss, and through those experiences, she's learned one of the most transformative lessons, the power of self-compassion. Her journey shows us that healing isn't just about pushing through the pain. Sometimes it's about slowing down enough to ask ourselves, what do I need right now? Erika, welcome to the Grieving Journey podcast. I am so glad to have you here tonight. But before we get started, I have to ask you, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm here. I'm excited to be here for this moment, and I am super proud of you and what this is becoming for you, and happy to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Again, and thank you for being here and being open to share. I know your story will really resonate with people and touch the people that it is supposed to. So let's just get into it. Share your grieving journey with us.
Thank you, Angel. It is amazing. You and I have showed up to places dressed alike, and the timing of different things has been amazing. Did you know today is World Stroke Day? And we booked this a
Wow.
month or so ago, and I have been verklempt all day. I got my tissue here because my grieving journey started with a stroke with my husband at the time. And when I tell you it was August 2017, and you know, the world changed for me in a phone call. We woke up that morning, double income family, 2 kids, doing what we do on the grind with an 8 and 11-year-old. And before the day ended, I was now a wife of a mother of a husband who suffered a massive stroke. He was driving from uptown Charlotte, and I won't go into all the wonderful Samaritans that day, but being that it is World Stroke Day, I cannot tell you and others how important it is that you recognize the signs and act fast. Because had it not been for a young man that really was getting out to tell my husband not to bring whatever he was bringing to his neighborhood, because he was swerving, and they thought he was up to no good, and so they got out and recognized his situation. So fast forward, I actually got the call from him, my husband, telling me, "Hey, I think I'm having a stroke." And you just go into autopilot. I was at the camp, so I had the counselors keep my children, and I took off to the emergency room. And Angel, I don't know, when I'm overwhelmed, I just stand still. And I remember standing like a statue in the ER waiting for the doctor to tell me what was next. And wow, we spent 10 to 15 days in atrium ICU, got to the regular floors for a week or two, and then he was moved to acute rehab for another five. I mean, just weeks. And when you have an 8 and 11-year-old, and you got to keep things going in life. And so I was juggling everything. But let me tell you, we didn't know if he was going to live or die for a day or two. It was that he looked okay, but I was warned they didn't know which way it was going to go. So you're just sitting there and you're just praying and believing for his life. And you don't know what the next day is going to be, but you just go through it. And I don't know I mean, yeah, just trying to get him home. My goal was to get him home and safely. So we just went through the motions in the hospital, in the acute rehab. And I was just sad, Angel. I cried, and, I didn't want him to feel bad, but I just went through a lot because one thing I had to realize later, and this is when I think about my journey, there are really three major stops, if you will. And this stop is just called, grief of a survivor. It took me a while because I was just struggling with anger. I was struggling with frustration. I was struggling with being overwhelmed, stressed, sad. And and even at one point, I asked a friend, I just shared with her because I was really having a hard time. I just felt like God was punishing me. And it's funny, you say, well, he had the stroke, but why did you feel that way? And it just was hard. And I did not understand why this happened to our family. And I just grew up in a culture of you do good, everything good will happen. But if you do bad, something bad's going to happen. So I kept struggling with what did we do to deserve this? What do we do? We've just always been good people. We're homegrown charlatans. We'll give you the shirts off our back. You won't ever be hungry in my presence. So I didn't understand why this happened to us. So I just had to get through that. And then someone one day at work said, Erica, people don't really realize it, but it's harder to grieve. People don't realize it, but it's harder when they survive. And that resonated with me. And for some reason, I was like, oh, that's it. I think many people saw me and saw us like, wow, y'all are winning. He survived. But what you don't know, this is a different kind of grief. It's a grief of what changed. It's a grief of what will never be again. You struggle because you're so grateful he's alive. You're grateful because we got his executive speech, as they call it, came back quickly, but the mobility was challenging. So he didn't drive for 2 years. He didn't work for 2 years. So you're grieving what no longer is. And I did not know that's what I was doing. I kept having this cycle of anger, cycle of frustration. Everything was on me. So I couldn't be sad because I was in auto mode because I didn't want my children to miss a beat, and they did not. And my village came in, and it was great from that standpoint, but I couldn't shake this caregiver and then grief that I was experiencing. So I have to say that was the start. I really never had loss before, maybe lost a grandparent or something, but that was a very close, in my face, acute occurrence on this journey. And I remember even bargaining with God, saying, okay, Lord, if this is our turn, it's our turn. But can you give me 5 years? Can you give me 5 years before? I really talked this out loud. I would say things like that. Well, Angel, we got that was 2017. 2019, we started to find our way again. And then here comes COVID, a little blessing for him in disguise because his mobility was challenged. So he got to stay at home. And then we were all here, but we know the stressors and all the things everyone went through during the COVID pandemic. But then I didn't make it to 5 years. 3.5 years later, my sister died. This is the stop on my journey that I call the sudden grief. Um, it was March 6th, 2021, and my world changed again. The phone call. Keisha was a nurse at Navant Hospital, and the way the story goes is she walked her patient to the door and collapsed, and that was it. And when you have a higher faith and you believe higher, and you go through all the challenges of grief or all the stages of grief, there was wait a minute, though, did someone not know oh man, if they would have been around, someone would have known CPR. So she was in a hospital. Where else best to be to have any type of life event but a hospital? And I had some moments of saying, okay, it must have been her time. But that one, as you hear, I get verklempt. The lump shows up every time. I don't know when that lump will go away. I've learned to embrace it. But this stop of my journey definitely is the acute sudden loss. But this is a story and a cautionary tale of if you do not grieve appropriately, you will grieve. And
Oh,
it won't
yeah.
it won't be the way you want it to be. I
Mhm.
told myself, because if you know me, and you always get on me a little bit too. I'm a checklist kind of woman. Tell me what you need, get out my way, I'm gonna get it done. Um, yeah, we're gonna get it done. I'm a taskmaster. I love to drive execution. Strategy has to happen with that execution, but I'm all about there's timelines and deadlines. So in my world, Angel, I thought, okay, we're gonna have the funeral. I'm gonna go to the grave site. I'm gonna cry. I'm going to, I even went on my favorite place is Cabo, and I went into Cabo for a week, well watched. I really felt I sat down and was in my grief. Got back to work, awkward, cried on every other meeting. But I was finding my way back. And then I got a project that I absolutely loved in the market. We had a chance to make a very big impact on the digital divide in Charlotte with 10,000 Chromebooks. And Angel, I was so grateful for that assignment. It was mine and our Charlotte market president and I. We hooked on and we got it done with a wonderful, wonderful team of folks. And I loved it, Angel, because I didn't have to feel my loss. I was I had said it and I was bragging. Oh my God, this is, oh man, I'm not crying. I'm not worried. Yep, Keisha's gone, but I'm okay. And that was March. So I say I got back April-ish. So I was gone maybe, the 3 to 4, whatever. I did my whole bereavement. I thought I had checked the list of grieving for my sister. And I came back and threw myself. I got that assignment in May and we went hard. We went hard until those kids went back to school with everyone having a Chromebook that needed one. And what happened, Angel, next, I truly wasn't in control. The noise, as I call it, I was no longer busy with this amazing assignment, and I couldn't stop the noise of my grief and my sadness. And I arrived one day in the 1BAC parking deck, and by this time, the market team, we were back from COVID, but we had to be fully masked up. We were one of the first ones to come back because what we do is so in the community and in front of the people. And I was in my car and I was driving that day feeling sad, but I'm like, okay, that's okay. Keisha, I'm sad. It still hadn't been a year. It still hadn't been 6 months, but I had a mask on and I got to 1BAC and I couldn't stop the tears. So I take the mask off and wipe the tears and I put the mask on. Okay, let's go in. Long story short, Angel, I couldn't get out the car. I could not stop crying. And now we know it was a full-on anxiety rate, and what I call it, I gotta have a song, I gotta have a saying, but it was that's the day the wheels fell off. That's the day I could no longer run from the grief I did not allow myself to feel. I did not sit into a grief that I needed to sit into. I lost my only sister, my only sibling. It was quick. I didn't get to say goodbye. You just and the wheels fell off and I drove myself to the ER. Fast forward, I was going to be home for 10 days. Angel, I didn't come back for 3 months. Your girl was hurting. I was so down. It was so hard. But I couldn't run anymore. I couldn't run anymore. And yeah, from September to January, I was out and I was struggling so hard. And you mentioned it in your intro, and we may come back to it, but this is when I found self-compassion. Everyone said, Erika, while you're out, find self-love. You go hard for everybody else. You just came through something with your husband. You've got to learn to take care of yourself. But it wasn't self-care. It wasn't self-love. It was self-compassion. And I won't go deep into it, but I had to learn quickly how to become my own best friend, something I never really understood what that meant. But compassion, if you follow me on Instagram or anything, it truly saved my life and it restored my soul. And I made it through. And actually, my therapist and I went through an exercise because I wanted to come back, but I felt something was weird. She took me through an exercise and I had to close my eyes. And when I opened them, she said, "Are you ready to go back?" And I said, "No." And now I'm so glad I had the courage to say no and do what I needed to do to stay out a little longer, Angel, because a year and 6 months later, I lost my dad. My person, oh my God, Angel. We share the love of a parent, right? And
Yeah.
you call your mama your girl, but my daddy loved him some Erika. And we were tight. And I got back to work, let's say the 4th of January. I didn't make it 3 weeks and he went into the hospital and never came out. So I now look back and know I took the time I finally needed to grieve Keisha and maybe a little extra time to prepare me for what I was about to walk through again. And it was literally a year and 6 days. So um that he went on to glory. And even in that, Angel, I found gratitude because with Keisha being so quick, I was able, and mind you, I was in that hospital cutting up, advocating, fighting. I knew we could make this happen again, where he could make it out. But when it was becoming clearer that he may not make it out, I found a way to find gratitude that I had this time. And Pop and I were so close, and he knew. He said, "Lady," that was my nickname. He said, "Lady, I'm sorry for what you're about to go through. But I want you to know a father couldn't have asked for a better daughter. And you have been so good to me. And there's not another word you and I ever have to say to one another because we've said it and we've lived it together." And Angel, that gave me so much peace. And that gives me peace, even though I'm crying. It gives me peace now. But as much as I loved him and as hard as that grief, because I used to cry about Pop leaving years before he ever died, because I knew that day was going to have to come. And after losing Keisha, I knew I didn't want him to lose me first. So I knew I needed to be ready for me to lose him.
Mm.
And but as hard as that one should have been, I believe because I had found self-compassion, because I took the time I needed for Keisha, I was forced to take the time because my body said no more. But I did pretty well as you could do, from losing a normalcy in 2017 and all that comes out of strokes. And I can't believe today is World Stroke Day because I can't tell people enough it's not worth it. Take whatever you got to do not to have one. Listen to the facts. But then 3.5 years later to lose my sister, in a year and 6 days later. So in the course of 5 years, I lost three people. And these were not just distant, these were people in my nucleus. And it rubbed deep. It ran deeply. So there's more to the journey as far as recovering and healing. But Angel, those are the three stops on my journey that have taken me to a journey of grief.
Wow, Erica. First of all, I am hugging you through the computer. You know, I love me some you. And as you know, I don't know your story or your journey. Everybody experiences it differently, but I can relate to, some of the things that you shared. So I'm definitely sending you a lot of love and a lot of comfort right now. You said so many things that I believe that there are people who are either struggling through their grief or have struggled through their grief, and they have experienced some of those same things. So one of the things you mentioned early on in you telling your journey, you said a lot of like, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. I should have been doing this, or if I would have did this, or if somebody would have been there. And I can tell you that I experienced that firsthand with my mom. And at some point, I just had to say, Angel, you don't know the answers. What you do know is what is. And I had to like move past those thoughts that I was having because so my mom died from a heart attack. So I had so
Mm.
many thoughts about what caused her to have a heart attack, like just so many different things. Like if somebody would have did X, Y, and Z. So my first question for you is, how did you work through those shoulda, coulda, woulda thoughts?
Two words, Angel. One day I was really struggling with my husband's stroke, like I told you, and I was struggling, and I was embarrassed about my feeling of feeling punished. I didn't even know who to articulate it. But one day I was taking my son. I was on the run usually, and I took him to baseball practice, and I sat far away from everybody because I was just so down. And I picked up the phone and called a friend, and I said, "Friend, I'm struggling." and I was crying on a bench, on a bleacher at kids' baseball. But I said, but I whispered it. I said, I feel like I'm being punished. And she said, Erica, trust God. Angel, I don't know why those two words did something for me. And everybody's going to have a different thing that's going to do it for them. But for that time, trust God. And for some reason, that stopped and that quieted the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And it quieted, oh my God, what does this mean for us? Will he work again? Will he? Because this is early in the days. I mean, I probably carried that for months. Yeah, it was those two words. And then when I get past the stroke incident and move on to my sister, um, there was a song, and it also had like the trust God mantra in there, but it was I won't complain. I won't, oh God, I usually have it on my oh God,
I
it's gonna
won't
come.
complain. That one.
I won't
Because the
complain.
Lord's
It was
been so good to
we were
me.
not created to
Yeah.
worry.
Yeah.
We were not created to fear.
Create. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It, but there was a part he goes, no more crying, no more complaining, and I would play that every night. And it was me trying to tell myself, no more crying, no more complaining, not to stop the tears and the emotions, but no more shoulda, woulda, couldas, no more. And of course, it didn't happen overnight, but those things.
Yeah.
And with self-compassion, I will share with you one quick sentence, Angel, that I learned. And again, one day I'm gonna do I'm telling you, self-compassion. I tell you, I want the world to know about it. I want the world to know about self-compassion. But in my learnings and my practices, self-compassion tells you, you got to find a phrase. You got to find a phrase to get you through your grief. And everybody's phrase is going to be different. But for me, the word gratitude in my studies and my practices, and then maybe culturally and how my family raised me, for some reason, we come back to giving gratitude and giving thanks. And my sentence, Angel, was gratitude. With gratitude, there is no more longing, because I longed for Keisha. I longed for another opportunity with her. But with gratitude, there is no more longing. That no more longing spoke to me, and I am complete, and my heart is at rest. That was my sentence at work, getting out the car. For a while, it was almost a gratitude. And I used to do it by heart because I said it all the time. But yeah, it was sentences, it was a trust God, it was a song, but I had to lean into this, a discernment of, tell me, Lord, help me through this. And those are things he gave me to help me through, and to stop asking and questioning why things happened the way they did.
That is so good. It's so simple, but it's so grounding. Like, and I always say, and we always in our community, we say there's something about the name Jesus. And I know you said trust God, but that's synonymous. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I can agree with that. That is definitely what helped me through my grief. I tell people this all the
Mm-hmm.
time. When I lost my mother, as you mentioned earlier, she was my best friend. So when I would have issues like issues at work, issues at home, or dealing with friends, I would always call her first, and then she would pray. When I
Mm-hmm.
lost her, I had to pray first. And that was something that really got me to a place of understanding what it truly means to trust God, because we say it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you experience life, you have no choice but to trust him, or you're going to lose it. So that was so good. Thank you for calling that out and sharing it. Something else that you talked about that I can resonate with is you said that you thought that you were over it when it came to your sister passing, and you going back to work and you having this project, and you know, same thing. I believe that if I'm a believer, then I should get over this pretty quickly. And when I wasn't over it quickly, I was like, wait a minute. I remember the day
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my therapist about this, because I was like, why? I literally asked him, why do I still feel this way? Like, I know
Mm-hmm.
she's in heaven. I know that she's with me. I may not be able to physically see her, but I know that she's with me. And that was when I really started to embrace my grief. So you thought that it was over. You checked all the boxes, and then you said you had the moment where you were in the car. Was there something that triggered that moment, or was it just you just stopped, took a breather, and thought?
Nope, I was driving, and for for those of us in Charlotte, I pick on myself because I cannot. It's not in my DNA not to take the express lane. And I laughed. I gotta be silly a moment because I'll cry this whole time. But Angel, I was driving on the express lane of coming down 70, well, coming 77 to 85, and I got on the express lane, and this sadness came over me, Angel. And I wish I could tell you there was a song on, but I got sad, and I was saying things like, "Okay, you about about 5 minutes, get over it, like, come on, come on." And I got closer and closer to the office and I couldn't stop crying. So I wish I can tell you there was something, but something did trigger it. Something triggered it, Angel. And honestly, when I just think my body had enough. I think there wasn't a tissue, there wasn't a song or a sentence that was not, that was going to hold that dam, that was going to be the dam to hold that flood of grief that I did not deal with. And so, yeah, I wish I could tell you there was something, but I remember, right, I could see myself going over the express lane on that curve every day, and I remember saying, "Whoa, I'm heavy. I'm heavy. Something's heavier with me this morning." I'm very self-aware. I definitely, even before self-compassion, I always, well, a question because like you said, why am I not getting over this?" I'm like, okay, I'm feeling even heavier today. What's that? And by the time I got to the parking deck, the tears were flowing. I put the mask on, and if I could have covered the tears to walk in that office, Angel, and get that laptop open, I promise you, I would have kept on going another day. I couldn't get out the car. I
Mm.
couldn't even open the door to the car. It was a frozen anxiety. Now we panic, call, we always want to name something, but I just say the dam broke. The wheels fell off for me. I
Mhm.
couldn't control it anymore. And I am a alpha woman who controls everything
Yes,
first,
you are.
left-handed. I am as dominant, and I could not. There was not a control button I could find that day, Angel. And I saw them. I was seeing. I just tried to get out the car, and I couldn't get out the car.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, and you didn't really mention it in telling your story, but I do want you to talk about the support you had during this time. And not only talk about the support that you had as it relates to like your coworkers, your manager, all of that sort of thing, but also talk about for those who we talked about this a couple weekend or last weekend, those who struggle with accepting support. Can you
Mm,
talk a little bit about the support that you
absolutely.
had and also maybe give some advice for those who struggle in accepting the support?
Listen, Angel, and I got you've been helping me get my life together on social media, and I'm gonna show this picture. I have a picture, and it will and I was going to say it in my journey part. Not only did self-compassion change my life, there's a group of 13 women that literally, it was December. I had been out for 3 months, and I knew my time was up as far as benefits to stay out, and I was still struggling. And I got a call from two ladies to go out to lunch. And I didn't want to go, Angel. I was so sad and I looked a mess. I was just fluffy as could be, medicated. I was just not wanting to be around people. But you know how we do. We show up for others and to help them feel good. But I even wore the color yellow, and you can't get into it now, but you know what yellow means for me now. I even wore the color yellow that day because I wanted to feel light and I wanted them to think that I was feeling light. Long story short, I walked into the restaurant of Mama Ricotta's, and lo and behold, 11 more ladies jumped out to wish me a surprise early happy birthday. And they all had on red. And what they did not know, Angel, is with all the work I was doing at the time, because as a caregiver, AHA pulled me onto a panel back in 2018, months after my husband had a stroke. And they never let me go. And I was grateful for the platform. And so we y'all know, everyone that knows me enough in Charlotte knows you're gonna hear me on in February, you're gonna hear me about the American Heart Walk. I'm going to talk about Go Red, Move More. I am your poster child for all things American Heart Association in Charlotte. So they all wore red. And funny, Zoe tried to get me to wear red. My daughter tried to get me to wear red, but she couldn't tell me about the surprise. And she said, Mom, don't you want to wear red? I'm like, mm-mm. But what no one knew, Angel, I was struggling with guilt. How was I on every committee for American Heart Association, or not every committee, but how was I even on the Go Red campaign, which is all about saving women, and I couldn't save my sister? I couldn't stand the color red for a long time. And I couldn't show up for AHA for a year. I had to work through guilt on top of grief, because how did I save and talk about saving women? And I couldn't. And this is my first time saying that out loud, that I did not, I had a guilt that no one knew I was suffering through. And I thought I was going to walk away from AHA because I felt so guilty that Keisha died under my watch. I took it on as my watch that she died. So fast forward, I walk into this restaurant. Everybody's in red. I'm in bright yellow. And Angel, they called it a self-care party. And what the ladies were instructed to do were to bring 2 of the same gift that all was for self-care, blankets, candles. And what they did was everyone gave me their gift, and then everybody got a gift. They passed their gift to the lady to their left or to their right. So you gave me all of the self-care gifts, but the message was we need to take care of ourselves. Angel, I can't tell. I can cry again. You know, I can't hold tears like I used to. When I tell you that one act changed everything, and you said, well, no, you're already out of work for 3 months. You've been in therapy forever. I was struggling that morning and already having anxiety on how I was going to go back to work. How I was going back to work. How I was going to go back to work. And I left that lunch, and I remember even going in my car like, whoa, I'm feeling lighter. Got home, was able to sleep. Got up the next morning, the bed did. I mean, it changed overnight, Angel. And your question was, what do you tell people who are struggling to let people help them? Please hear me. We're not here alone on this earth. You don't have to operate alone on this earth. The culture of caring is real. For whatever reason you want to say while we're in this culture more than ever, it doesn't matter. There's someone out there that cares about you. And when they reach out, you don't have to respond right away. But when you have people that love you and care for you, there is something that you don't owe them anything. Don't hear me clearly. But it's a gift to have someone to care about you. Because, you know, we can talk about everyone's self-absorbed and everyone's in their own world. Yes, because life is lifing and everybody has stuff going on. But I would tell you, I will forever, and I do post about it. There's not a dime I would give for my sister tribe, and they know who they are. I have some that keep me straight. I have some that put me in check, you know, all the time. But I also have the ones that's like, you know, take the cape off, sit down somewhere. Or when I say something a little crooked, they get me straight. You know, I still suffer with, I still overcome a lot of anger over that stroke. And so, Angel, to tell you that part, it was just, I could not believe, and I'm a believer. Right now, I got someone whose mother just passed. I got someone who is struggling quietly in Richmond. But I will send a text and say, I'm here. I'm thinking of you. I got someone else who mother had a new diagnosis. I cannot not let people I know not know I'm thinking about them. Let me say this, because when I got back to work, so many people, well, I didn't want to bother you. I didn't want, and I was mad. I was mad. I was in my feelings about that. Bother people when they're going through stuff, okay? Bother people.
Mm-hmm.
Bother people. And mind you, the way you love is you don't expect anything back. And I let everybody off the hook. Hey, don't say a thing back to me, letting you know I'm thinking about you. Ready when you are. Ready. I've gotten calls at 1 a.m. because they were ready at 1 a.m. And they knew I was going to answer that phone. So 2 things there, Angel. From the person hurting and grieving, don't seek it. It's going to find you. That person that's meant to be your person for that season and reason is going to show up. Because why? My number 2 is, for those of you who have people going through things, send a text. Texting makes everybody. Texting removes every excuse you have not to tell somebody you love them, I'm here for you. bother your people who are hurting, because when they get healed and ready, there's nothing in the world they won't do for you, because in their hurt and pain, and when they come through it, they're going to remember Angel sent me a text every other week or every day or whatever your frequency is. So I get a little passionate about that because, yeah, when you came to people, oh, girl, I ain't want to bother you. Shut up. But I was out for 3 months. I was out for 3 months and nothing. I didn't expect it, but when I got it from those 13 ladies like that, mind you, that wasn't the only time they showed up. I mean, then anyway, it was my childhood friend. It was colleagues from work. It was family, mother in love, bonus mom, bonus sister. I mean, they changed the course of this girl. They saved a sister that day. They saved a sister that day because the light came back in to that dinner. And I didn't have a 50th. That was my 50th birthday, and just putting folks on notice. Double nickels, it's gonna be off the chain because I didn't have a 50th. My 50th sadly was in grief, but for another time. But yeah, I would never forget those ladies, and I would never forget that gesture of love and caring for another. We are our sister and brother's keeper. We are. Period.
I love that. I was literally just talking to somebody and they were telling me about a situation with someone didn't reach out to them, and then when they were experiencing their grief, and when they finally did reach out to them, they said, well, I didn't know what to say. And I said, all you got to do is say, I don't know what to say, but I'm here.
That's it.
Simple as
And
that.
texting takes that pressure off of you having to even say you don't know what to say. You can text, I don't know what to say right now, but I'm thinking, I just sent two. I'm thinking of you today. I'm thinking of you, sis. And they know it. And you will never hurt my feelings if you never write me back. But you'll never say Erika D didn't check on you. You'll never say that won't come out your mouth.
Yeah, that is so good. We are getting close to wrapping up, but I got to ask you this one question. You have talked about self-compassion a lot. You dropped a couple of nuggets as to what it means, but can you elaborate on, first of all, what self-compassion is for you? How did you discover self-compassion, and how does that help you along your grieving journey currently in your life?
Yeah, self-compassion involves treating yourself the way you would treat a friend who was having a hard time. I got a workbook, and you can see it through the screen. I know our listeners can't, but I have a workbook, and I'll go through my workbook, and literally while I was home on bereavement from Keisha when the wheels fell off, I ate this up because I was seeking help like never before, and it resonated. But the one thing that self-compassion, I mean, there's five. I think there's three tenets to it. I won't be able to get into it. Oh, I do. There's three elements: self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. And the self-kindness is that when you hear me say, "I be your own best friend," or "What do I need right now?" That's self-kindness. And common humanity is you're not alone. Erika, people have lost their father. Or Erika, it's okay to be as angry as you have been about what happened to you and your family in 2017. And mindfulness is, a lot of us understand that a whole lot more, but being able to meditate and really work through it, slow the breaths down, etc. But my number one question, Angel, is what do I need right now? What do I need right now? It may be a cry. It may be a phone call. It may be a vacation. It may be a glass or two or three of wine. It's what I need, and I unapologetically give it to myself, whatever it is. So sometimes I literally can come home and just say, "Oh, I need a cleansing cry," and I don't try to hide it. Um, I didn't know, and then my therapist, I have to, I laugh and say she done earned every dime she's made with me, but I tell you, that saved my life. She brought, I had never heard of it before. I hope the listeners, so I hope I'm just saying something everybody already knows, but I never heard of I heard of self-love, and I heard of self-care, but self-compassion shows up in different places, in relationships, in work. There's things I do at work. Part of self-kindness is maybe giving yourself a compassionate touch. there's something I do and nobody even knows I'm doing it. But if I'm getting upset or I'm getting triggered, I may put my hands under the table and rub my leg because you're making yourself feel better in a situation that you may not be in control. I said it yesterday in our Help Talk series, Angel. Learning how to down regulate has changed everything for me because you don't carry things. Folks said, Erika Gar, you lost so much weight. I have lost the weight of worrying about everything and not being, I've lost the weight of not being okay, and it's okay to not be okay. I've transformed because I'm not eating my sorrows away, right? When you love yourself and there's self-compassion, oh, you get to the gym and you go hard because you found the capacity to take care of your best friend. I do a role play when I get a chance to talk about self-care. I mean self-compassion, Angel, and I can go on and I won't. But when you have self-compassion, think about that girlfriend that calls you crying, like, "Oh my God, I was in charge of the telepresence for my executive, and I screwed everything up. And I know she doesn't like me. I know she thinks she's dumb. I'm dumb." And what do? We talk down on ourselves. Self-compassion is what you would tell that friend, you tell yourself. Because a friend of mine called me with that. I'm saying, "Wait, stop. First of all, it's over. Second of all, you're not." So you learn to tell yourself quickly what you used to consume yourself with and ruminate and not let it go and then lose sleep and eating and drinking through things. You don't do that anymore with self-compassion. But girl, I could go on and on. One day I'm gonna have work. I see the vision, but it has been a absolute pleasure of mine to have learned this and share it for those who let me tell them because Angel, it saved my life. It really did. It took it helped big Erica let little Erica know everything's okay. And for if anyone's been therapy enough, you know the big and the little. A lot of our lives are just triggered from the things that happen, big or small, in our childhood. And when you can talk to the little Ericas and the little angels and let them know, hey, big Erica's got this. Sit down somewhere. And I'm telling you, it has changed everything for me. And I hope I was able to share just enough today on that, where maybe people will seek it out more.
Mhm.
Come see me and I'll talk about it. But I pray because man, life can be real good, and life hurts sometimes too. And if we can keep the good going, but also don't let the bad be what we're doing to ourselves and saying to ourselves, we'll
Mhm.
be okay. We'll be okay. So I'll stop on self-compassion there, Angel. I hope that was helpful a little bit to
Oh,
someone.
yeah. Yes, that was phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that. I've heard you talk about it so much, so I appreciate you sharing those nuggets with us for us to take along as we are on our grieving journey. Now, I know we've had a pretty good conversation, but I did want to ask you, is there anything that maybe we didn't touch that you would like to share to our listeners who may be on the journey of grieving or trying to figure it out?
Emotions need motion.
Mm,
And I mentioned earlier that, I am I am a advocate for heart disease and stroke, and I always take a moment to try to pull that in there. But I was studying today. I actually reached out to the AHA team and said, "Hey, just did this thing on emotional wellness for the market yesterday. Is there any tie to heart disease?" Because I know what my cardiologist told me when I had gotten through all the tests and everything was fine. And I said, "Oh, nothing was wrong with me. I don't know what happened that day." And she's the best thing in Charlotte, but she said, "Erica, I don't like what you just said." He said, "You don't know how many times I am pulled in to save someone's life at the hospital because they just left a funeral or their baby just got a diagnosis." Acute stress and grief or major happenings can kill us. And I would be remiss to sit here on this platform and not remind people emotions need emotion. Emotions need motion. Let them flow. I'm the biggest crier now. I get so sick of it, but I cry when I'm happy. But you gotta let this out, and it's okay. And don't take on hold everything in, because it can literally, there's a whole big long word for it in the cardiology studies, but there's a whole word for it. And I just would be remiss not to loop that in, that you've got to take care of yourself emotionally as well. And I promise you, the physical, the spiritual, and and the mental will come into play, because we feel, and that feeling helps us to do. And if you feel good or can help turn things around for yourself, you can do well and be okay. So that's what I would end with, Angel. Just emotions need motion, and don't hold things in, and don't take things lightly that you're going through, especially grief. And that grief is a wave. It's not, my biggest lesson, grief is not linear. Grief comes in waves. That was another lesson, Angel. I'm glad I mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
The checklist you and I tried to do, we thought it was linear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In 3 months, I'm going to be better. In 6 months, I'm going to be better than better. In 9 months, I'm going to be better than better than better. 9 months, I was on my butt because I didn't take care of Erika, little or big, for the whole 9 months. So grief comes in waves. It is not linear. Emotions need motion. Let them flow.
That is so good. I can spend a whole bunch more time talking about that, but we are going to wrap up. Erika, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with such transparency and grace. You know, you have a special place in my heart, so I truly appreciate that. You've reminded us that grief doesn't just ask us to feel, it asks us to care for ourselves in the process. And I think that is so important. Your journey is such a powerful example of how self-compassion can truly transform healing. It's not about having it all together or moving on quickly. It's about allowing yourself to be human, to feel deeply, and to give yourself the same love and understanding that you so freely give to others. So you talked about earlier, people can find you on Instagram. If someone wanted to find you, how would they look you up? Where would they find you?
Wow. Instagram for sure. StatGirl97. I'm a big old math head. StatGirl97. Probably shouldn't get my phone. Angel, you know you coach me on what I probably shouldn't get my phone number.
No,
So
don't do that.
let's do social media. If you work at the same place I work, you can always ping, and we will set up time after that. So let's just try those two avenues. Right? Was that good, Angel? You know you're my
I mean, LinkedIn, you can have people
Oh,
to
I'm
follow you.
always on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. LinkedIn and Instagram are the two social platforms, media platforms that I frequent. And I'm Erika Young Duncan, I think, out on LinkedIn. So look me up. I would love to hear from you. I would love to know that this helped someone today.
Well, thank you, Erika. To everyone listening, I hope Erika's story encourages you to pause and check in when you're with yourself. When grief feels heavy, ask the simple question, what do I need right now? Sometimes the answer is rest. Sometimes the answer is prayer. And sometimes it's simply grace. Sometimes it's crying. And to Erika's point, sometimes it's 1, 2, 3, or the whole bottle of wine.
At home safely.
At home safely. You can
That's
follow
right.
you can follow the Grieving Journey podcast on Instagram and Facebook, or email us at thegrievingjourney@gmail.com if you have a short story that you would like to share. Until next time, trust God, give yourself permission to feel, and remember, self-compassion isn't selfish, it's sacred. Peace.
Thank you for joining us on the Grieving Journey podcast. If you know someone who could benefit from this show, share it with them. You can listen to the Grieving Journey podcast on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Stay connected with our community on social media. Until the next time, remember, you're not alone, and healing takes time. Keep walking this path with courage and compassion. Take care.